of hoarding collapse at Ghatkopar, Mumbai Police's crime branch has now arrested Bhavesh Bhinde, who was on the run for the last 3 days. When the incident took place on Monday, it was reported that Bhavesh Bhinde, along with his family, had fled outside Mumbai, which is where more than 9 teams were formed. All of these 9 teams were sent to 7 states across the country. In fact, the last known location of Bhavesh Bhinde was at Lonavala. It was said that he had stayed at his resort, which was in Lonavala. In fact, following that, just 2 hours before Mumbai police could reach at Lonavala, he fled from there. His last phone location was also at Lonavala. He switched off his phone at Lonavala so that he could not be tracked. Following which, details emerged that from Lonavala he came towards Thane, and through the Nasik route he tried to escape towards Gujarat. His location was also found at Gujarat, wherein eventually after Gujarat he fled towards Udaipur. He was staying in a resort at Udaipur under a fake identity so that he could not be found, but the crime branch arrested Bhavesh Bhinde on Thursday from Udaipur. He was brought back to Mumbai early this morning and produced at the Killa court, wherein the Mumbai police has sought his remand. Here in this case, the investigation of the case has also been transferred to the crime branch. So far, BMC has announced that the operation at the Ghatkopar hoarding collapse site was closed on Thursday. There were 16 people who had lost their lives in this very instance, and around 75 people were injured, all of whom had received treatment. In fact, now, when the incident took place, there was a blame game that ensued between BMC and the government reserve police, on whose land this very petrol pump in fact stood. There's also a show cause notice which was issued to the then GRP commissioner, that is Kaisar Khalid, approximately a year back. However, it was mentioned by Kaisar Khalid that he received the notice only yesterday. This was so as to understand how the transaction of the very petrol pump and the hoarding took place, because not only the hoarding which collapsed, but the other 3 hoardings were also given permission by GRP. In fact, details by BMC also revealed how the land belonged to GRP, and all of these hoardings were given illegal permission. There were 4 such huge hoardings which stood on that land, all of which were 120 by 120 feet long, though the guidelines by BMC in fact states that a hoarding cannot be more than 40 by 40 feet long, which is where when the instance of this hoarding collapse took place, there were several people who lost their lives. In fact, this very hoarding had crashed onto the petrol pump, where there were petrol pump workers as well who were working, some of whom in fact said that because of the dust storm and the gusty winds and rain, there were several people who would come to take shelter at that very petrol pump as well, which is where there were more casualties that took place. So here in this case that we speak of, though there is a VJTI also which has been asked to conduct an audit and an inquiry to the collapse, and how did the hoarding actually collapse. It was in fact uprooted from the site itself. VJTI is conducting an inquiry. Similarly, Mumbai Police's crime branch would also be investigating to understand Bhavesh Bhinde's role in it. How did he in fact get the permission to put up those huge billboards right across Eastern Express Highway, and who all were involved in this. Similarly, the GRP Commissioner Kaisar Khalid would also have to be answerable before the DJP to understand GRP's role in setting up these hoardings.